Thank you so much, Simran, for joining us today, and welcome to the Next Goods podcast, where it is our aim to talk to founders who are building the next generation of consumer brands. And this is a conversation that I'm personally very excited about because, as I mentioned to you before in the lobby as well, that I, for one, am truly into that whole health revolution that's happening. Over the last few years, I've read a lot about this and I've become very conscious of what I put inside my body and just general health and well-being. But having said that, I see a lot of people around me that still aren't there.
Yeah,
And so I'm really excited to see what you're doing in the space and kind of get the word out for how important it is to take care of your health and take care of your gut in general, right? So, just for the viewers listening, you are the CEO and founder of Truly Health, which
correct.
is a nutraceutical startup, from what I see,
Right,
with the main pillar of your products being gut health,
correct.
right? Yeah. Okay. So with that, maybe you can take a few minutes to talk about yourself, your background, and also what your company does in detail.
Definitely. Thank you for the warm welcome, Amod. So, as you mentioned, I am the founder and CEO of Truly Health. And we launched in January 22, and our major pillar, like you rightly mentioned, is gut health. So, it is something that stems from a personal problem, not just me, but a lot of friends and family around me as well. And before I begin with the story, just to give you a little bit of background, I have a double major in microbiology and biochemistry. So I very closely understand the world of microorganisms and it intrigues me to a level that I can't explain. So when I suffered from gut issues, I knew that, and I'm an enthusiast. So I have tried a lot of different products in the markets in different
Yeah.
form factors, different formulations, and everything is a quick fix. All the pharmaceutical products out there as well, they give you a sort of symptomatic relief. So if you're facing bloating, for example, they will give you something that stops bloating, but nothing that actually attacks the root cause to prevent
Mm.
bloating from recurring again and again, which is something that was happening not just with me, with my friends and family members as well. So I did think that there was a sort of white space to come up with a product which does tackle things from the root cause and just, sorts of eliminates it once and for all. And a lot of formulations that I did see, because I have a habit of turning the product, reading the label because I understand the product mix. A lot of these formulations are not very well suited for the Indian guts. A lot of it is actually a copy paste from the Western formulations because they've worked on the Western guts. It's just blanketly assumed that it will work well for the Indian gut as well. So that is again something that I did want to tackle, because our soil is different, our lifestyle is different, the climate, the environment, stress factors, everything is different. So we also need a formulation, a product that is very well suited for the Indian gut type. So to be able to deliver that was something that was on the agenda. And with these 2 to 3 white spaces, we did think that we could make a better product, which is very deeply rooted in science, very clinically proven, because anything that does not show results is not something I would feel comfortable with giving my friends and family as well. As I told you, like, this is something that I would use personally and
Yeah.
make my family use it as well. So having evidence based ingredients and definitely a clean product. We don't want to add anything in our body which is not absolutely necessary. So, given all of these pillars and first principles in mind, we did think that we could do a better job at creating a product which is very Indian in its origin and very effective in its results.
Awesome. No, that's such good context there. And this was part of my questioning going forward, but you already addressed it, which is like what is the exact white space that you're tackling? And in your case, it's how you don't want to make a copy paste, you
Yeah.
want to do something that's tailor made for the Indian audience, right? So I have a lot of questions and different lines to go into, but
So,
I just want to rewind a little bit, right? Because I was looking at your profile and you mentioned that you have a double degree, one of them being in microbiology, right?
correct.
But I was noticing on your profile that you did not start working professionally in health.
Right.
You were doing something else,
Right.
right? So tell us a little bit about that, and specifically tell us what was that crucial moment in your life where you were like, okay, this is an interesting problem that I have to solve because it's affecting me, it's affecting people around me, and that's when you decided to go full time into this.
Definitely. So, uh, I have always wanted to do science. Science is the only thing that has stuck with me since the very beginning during my school days. And right after class 12, I wanted to find the cure for AIDS and get a Nobel Prize. Like that was where this all started. And then Xavier's Bombay happened. And while everything was great, I realized that I don't want to enter the lab per se, but I want to take solutions that are made in the lab to the audience, all right, because there is a gap between
Mhm.
that. There are so many wonderful ideas, so much wonderful work being
Yeah.
done in laboratories in India which does not receive the face time that it should, just because of the dearth of like resources, representation, people who can make it reach to different stages. So because I've had the exposure of the laboratory setting, and I come from a business family as well. Both my parents are working, my brother's working, so I do. And I'm a Marwari, so doing business is something that's very core to my
Yeah.
self as well. So I did see myself mixing both the worlds, and I of course do love money. So to be able to get best of all worlds while making an impact, which will ultimately motivate me on a day-to-day basis, because what you need to understand is when you're starting a consumer brand, for example, money is not immediately going to flow in. You need
Yep.
to have some basis of why you're doing what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, which can ultimately exponentially get you to a point. Uh,
Mhm.
so you need to have that motivation set in stone. So knowing that I wanted to not just stick with research, but I also did love research quite a bit, but also be able to commercialize the research in a way that can help people, where because a lot of people in today's day and age, the actual problem I'm trying to solve for is preventative healthcare, especially in India. Unless something snowballs into something big, people do not ask for help, right? They
Yeah.
will wait till they reach the end zone, then they'll go to a doctor and they would want immediate results. But this needs to change. Like, people need to understand that they don't have to reach the level 100 to be able to improve their lifestyle. So, preventative healthcare as a concept is still something which is new to India. And being
Yep.
able to talk a lot more about that and to be able to make that widely available and accessible to people is also something that I wanted to tackle. So, just like I mentioned, your question on what was the turning point, there was no specific turning point. Like I mentioned,
Mhm.
I was suffering from gut issues. I looked at people suffering from gut issues. Number one, they didn't know it was a gut issue. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest challenge for the longest time. People only associate gut issue with a digestive problem, which is not true. Right now there is so much research talking about how every aspect of your being is aligned with your gut, whether it's your mental health, whether it's your weight loss, whether it's your immunity. Everything is so closely connected with your gut. You cannot separate one from the other. So
Yeah.
because so many people were going through so many things, and everything in the end was in some way related to the gut, this is the area that I felt had a lot of promise and a lot of potential, to be able to impact a lot more people and directly impact me and the people that I am living with. So I did think this was the need of the hour, and had to be worked on. So that was the switch that happened in the second, third year of college, when I did think something needs to be done in this space.
Awesome. And I love that because we often see so many people who are technically sound and they're working on some kind of research which is breakthrough, right? Like as you said, you didn't, there's so much research that happens in labs, but they kind of just keep circling around in their own community of scientists and a very select few people who understand that topic. And I'm so grateful that you kind of took that decision early on, that I don't want this to be just a scientific topic that's in the lab or in research papers. I want to take this to people who are being affected and who don't know much about this, right? So that
Exactly.
is that is amazing, right? Just on this note, you mentioned that a lot of people around you were suffering, you were suffering, and they didn't even know that they had gut issues, right? Now a lot of research is coming out into the mainstream media where we are realizing, as you said, that gut is the root cause of everything, right?
Correct.
So maybe if you could take a few minutes to explain to the audience how important is gut health and how does it manifest in different ways.
Definitely. So, gut health, it's a very broad topic and it's become very popular, and the resources that are available to people and the kind of content that at least I see on social media is haywire. Okay, people are asking you to go gluten free. Some people are saying no, gluten is fine. You don't have to kill yourself in the process. Some people are saying dairy is good. Some people are saying dairy is bad. Some people are saying sugar in moderation is good. Some people are saying so it's just people are saying whatever, whenever, just to get TRP, which is my problem with the market right now. But just in simple terms, your gut health is to definitely do with the food that you're intaking. And your gut is basically made of trillions of microorganisms. In one person, you're actually 90% bacteria and 10% human. So you and I sitting here are more bacteria than human, if that, sort of like humbles us in some way or the other. So these bacteria perform function from protecting you from different diseases to helping you digest your food, to increase your metabolism, to make sure your hormones are in balance, to be able to do so many things. It requires a whole host of organisms, which these microorganisms are doing. And whenever you say gut health, people somehow just, touch their stomach and be like, oh, this is my gut, which is not true. Because your gut actually starts from your mouth. It goes down your esophagus to your stomach, to your intestines, and then to your colon, from where and your anus, from where food is expelled. So this entire tract that you have is part of your gut, and taking care of each and every part is very important. Most of the microorganisms are present in your intestines, where it's actually supposed to work, which is why we say that you need to take care of your stomach, you need to take care of your gut. But in terms of function, from nutrient absorption to food digestion, a lot of like metabolic diseases, like say type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, leaky gut, all of this is because of your gut. This is so if I were to break the functions of a gut into different categories, I would definitely put the easy one, which is digestive disorders, that everyone knows. Okay, like they know bloating, indigestion, gas, acid reflux, all of that. Then you have metabolic disorders, which is your type 2 diabetes, your fatty liver, and all of that I just mentioned. Then you also have skin disorders. So your psoriasis, your skin lesions, all of that is because your gut is not strong enough and you have toxins getting released and getting deposited under your gut. And then you have the mental health aspect of things as well, where a lot of depression, mood swings, even autism spectrum disorder is also seem to associated with this. And last but not the least, you also have autoimmune diseases like allergies. People are allergic to soy, people are allergic to besan, nuts, a lot of these times. That's also because your gut is not trained. Your immunity lies in your gut, right? A lot of the cells are trained by your gut cells. So if that training is broken, then you'll see that all these autoimmune diseases also happen, because your body starts recognizing its own molecules as foreign and not as its own. So it'll attack its own molecules. That is when you get autoimmune diseases. So this is like just the tip of the iceberg. This is just like summarizes as to the whole host of things that's related to your gut, and why more people need to talk about it in a very science first approach, rather than a very influencer first, or like views first approach. Like you don't have,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be shocking, it just has to be right. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to solve for.
No, thank you so much for that explanation. And it's just mind-boggling you how many things it actually affects.
Yeah.
And there's this old saying that all diseases begin from the gut. And like based on what you were saying, that's actually true, right?
It
So your
is.
mood, your skin, your mental health,
Immunity.
everything
Yeah.
is gut related, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned something very interesting, which is that in media, basically now everybody's giving general advice, right? Stop this, stop that, this is not good for you. It's not really personalized insight.
Correct.
uh, and as you mentioned, right, it doesn't have to be mind boggling, it just needs to be right. I
Right.
was looking through your products on your website, right, and something very interesting that I found was you have probiotic and prebiotic capsules, but you have it for different kinds of applications. So I think you have one for women, you have one for daily application, am I right?
Correct.
uh yeah. So because even I, as a person who's very concerned about my health, I don't know about the different types of probiotics I should be taking at different for different purposes, etc. Like for me, it's just I take like a daily probiotic and that's it, I'm good to go, right? So is that one of the white spaces that you're trying to educate people about? And what's the science behind that?
I'm so glad you asked me this because so when it comes to probiotics, there is no one size fits all approach, okay? There are
Hmm.
specific strains of bacteria that perform very specific functions, and it's important
Yeah.
that you, if you're suffering from, say, high cholesterol, then you look for those particular strains that deal with high cholesterol, that work towards breaking down your nutrients in an effective manner so that food does not get deposited and gets digested really well. So, for every specific need that you have, even my women's probiotic, which is for vaginal health, there are specific strains of bacteria that actually help with improving your vaginal pH to ensure that you don't face recurrent UTIs, to ensure that you don't have any unnatural discharge or odor. So when we talk about specificity, there are broad strain bacteria and there are specific strain bacteria, like narrow spectrum bacteria. It's very important to have a very targeted approach. So anyone who's trying to lose weight cannot have any sort of A, B, or Z probiotic in the market and expect them to show results because it won't happen. You do need a targeted approach for your targeted gut concern. Having said that, I do get a lot of questions that Simran, I'm consuming dahi every day. I'm consuming, that's my source of probiotic. Is that all right? Now, personally, I believe in a food first approach. If there's anything that can be solved with food, great, go for it. When it comes to probiotics, Amod, there is a very big difference between the food that is available to us and the food that we actually need. So, dahi, for example, has just two strains of bacteria which are not heat stable. What does that mean? That means that when you consume them, the bacteria will die even before it reaches your colon. Why? Because it gets killed by the stomach acid. So, what you need actually is you need the outer coating of a capsule to protect that live bacteria so that it reaches your gut. So, all of these companies who are selling powders or liquids, I'm not going to name them, I don't want a legal lawsuit or whatever, but all these companies selling liquids, powders, gummies, they're not doing it in the right format. So, they can tell you that, oh, we're giving you 20 billion CFU. Half of the people don't know what this line means, but they can
Yeah.
tell you 20 billion CFU, 60 billion CFU, but what is actually reaching your gut? It's probably zero if your stomach acid is killing all the live bacteria. So, to be able to disseminate this information down to every strata of like society is very important, and I think there needs to be some form of education. It's very slow, but it's actually happening because people are asking questions now. People are like, okay, why should I take this? Why this particular strain? So my favorite customers are customers who ask me questions on my ingredients, like why have you included MCT oil? Why have you included this strain of lactobacillus? So those are the right kind of questions, and you do need to understand before you trust any and every brand.
That's so insightful, and that's particularly an insight that I haven't heard from anyone or any of the reels, shorts, or interviews I've
Yeah.
seen online, right? Because it's all about, okay, like you need to eat sauerkraut, you need to eat more yogurt, and that is something that'll give you the probiotics you need. But
You
as you
do.
mentioned,
I'm
right?
sorry to
pe-
interrupt, but there are a
yeah,
lot of like probiotic foods that do give you the
yeah,
benefit. But just in my daily Indian like diet, I don't
yeah, yeah,
include that. I don't have a lot of sauerkraut. I don't have a lot of kimchi. Not a lot of miso, tempeh. Sure,
yeah.
those will give you, but when you like that's also for genetic gut health. Like those have very specific strains of bacteria. If you're trying to improve your metabolism, for example, it's not necessary that those particular strains will be present in these particular food products. So
Yeah.
you need to see what you're trying to solve for and what you're actually taking to solve for that.
I see. I see. No, that's something again I haven't heard before. But that also brings me to a question, right? There's so much scientific context to this, right? And you have that today because you are from that background. You've studied this. You're passionate about this. You continue to study this, right? Now, when as a business you are taking this product to market, right? How are you marketing this product? Because I'll tell you why. Like you mentioned, right? There's some brands today that have made like a premix, and it's like, oh, again, I won't name them because I too don't want a lawsuit. But it's like, oh, every morning, one scoop, it'll give you all the nutrients you need for the day, and then you're good to go, right? That's how it is being marketed as a convenient way to fulfill your dietary needs, whether that's probiotics, whether that's protein, right? But given that you have so much context, and that is the right way to do it, what is your marketing strategy with Truly Health?
Okay. That's a good question as well. So when I market my products, I never market my product as a silver bullet. All right, it's very very tempting to do so.
Hmm.
When I'm telling people about say my weight management or weight loss supplement, I never say that okay, you have this for 14 days and you lose 4 kgs. That's just not possible. I can't have those expectations because then they're going to buy the product and then they're going to take it for 2 weeks and they're going to be like, shit, Simran, nothing happened. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I
Hmm.
always tell them what they can expect on week basis. So, with my weight management supplement, for example, week one, I'll tell them that your cravings will go away. I am personally someone who had insane sugar cravings. After every meal, I have to end it with something sweet. Like, I have to end strong. So I will tell them that okay, first month you can expect that to go away. First week. Second week you can expect your energy levels to rise, your digestion to improve. If you're facing bloating, acidity of any kind, that will go away. So what I technically do is I tell them in like very rooted in science what they can expect on week basis, and then once they continue their routine for a couple of months or 3 months, 90 days is what we suggest, then only because of an accumulation of all of these things, if you're eating less sugar, if your food is getting digested well and it's not accumulating around your waist circumference, if your energy levels are rising because of which you're working, like you're walking more, you're more active, because of all of these results, your body will automatically make you lose weight. It's not a fat burner. It's not something that people say that oh, it will shrink your fat cells to like take the fat out. That's not sustainable. If someone is marketing that, then the moment you stop that product, all your weight will come back and probably with double the force. So you do need to train your body to perform functions that it already should have been performing in an ideal scenario, but because of our lifestyle, because of our stress, our body just cannot do that. So there are certain strains of microorganisms that get killed because of the stress that we're going through, because of the high processed foods that we eat, they get killed. So I am just basically putting in those organisms that should have been there in a healthy ideal weight adult but isn't. So it's a very root cause approach, and it's making your body do the work rather than making the supplement shrink your fat cells or take away your appetite altogether. So it's a more holistic approach. So
I see.
definitely for marketing, awareness and education is very important. So usually what I see with my customers and with all the Google Analytics that we have set up, immediately a customer is not going to buy the moment they see the ad. They do go through the website. The amount of time that my customer spends on the website is actually higher than when I discuss with my other founder friends about the time that for a clothing brand, for example, or a different like sweets brand, for example, you like the product, you see that the brownie looks amazing, you just buy it. With probiotics, people do tend to spend a little more time reading about the ingredients, so that's good. So that's marketing awareness is definitely something that we focus on a lot when we're trying to advertise the product, and we ask reviews left, right, and center from our users as well, because more than influencer marketing, I do think like reviews from people that other people can actually resonate with will help. So whenever we get like a feedback call from someone saying, "Oh, this actually helped me within 2 months," we're like, "Can you please say that on camera for us? We would really like to run this." And that's how we've been able to get some wonderful, authentic UGC videos, and we're running with that. So that mostly helps.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that strategy and your experience with customers. I have two main takeaways from this when it comes to marketing, right? So the first one you said is website retention and the behavior of the customer when he or she is buying a health product, right?
Yeah,
So now that you say this, I kind of reflect on my own journey. When I want to buy, it's a separate thing when I'm doing a repeat purchase,
yeah,
but when I'm
sure.
trying out a new brand for protein powders or for, as you said, right, like some kind of nutritional supplement, if I look at it from my experience, I spend probably half an hour, 1 hour on the website
Easily.
just trying to see what they're all about,
Yeah,
trying to see what is their context, and spending more time looking at user reviews. They become all the more important, as
exactly.
opposed to when I'm buying some kind of other consumer product, which is like say a t-shirt
Yeah,
or a pair of shoes, right? Because this has to go in my body. So I think
exactly.
one learning for people who are operating in this space you're doing is to optimize your website so well,
100%.
and to kind of have that information and science backed evidence so well that when the user comes, they see what they need and they're able to make a decision properly rather than making a
Exactly.
decision
That
fast,
that
right?
makes all the difference. We've actually
Yeah.
beta tested so many different website layouts, and we have found that when we put the evidence of the science up on the website within the first two scrolls, we've seen conversions go up. So people do want to, like, even if they don't understand the chart very well, they do want to see why we've selected what we've selected. They do want to see the science behind it and the proof of work, proof of the product actually showing results. So when we actually added a lot of that, we get so many DMs on Instagram saying, "Oh, I've been using this for so long and it's worked like this." So but we were like, okay, let's actually put that up on the website as well. So if you actually go to our website, you'll see clips, like screenshots from Instagram of people reaching out to us, and it's like all there. As much social proof as we can put, we just head on, just do it, so that people know that it actually works and it's not a gimmick that a lot of other brands might, come out to be.
Yeah, and this is true for any other sort of consumer category where you're trying to solve a personal problem. So,
Yeah,
for example, I see a lot of this in the skincare category as well, right? Where user generated content has so much more value than, let's say, a shoe brand or a clothing
it's
brand,
everything.
because you're trying to solve a specific problem. Ki, oh, did my acne go away after 1 week or not? Will it go away or not? Okay, if it does, if it went for away for this person,
Yeah,
I'm going to make the purchase, right? So that's a
exactly.
very important learning, and thanks for sharing that. The other thing, other takeaway from this was again learning and talking to your consumers consistently,
Yes.
right? You mentioned how when I asked you that question about marketing, you basically talked about how you love the consumers that come to you and ask you questions and you're happy to answer them,
Yeah,
right?
more than happy.
My question there is, today you can do that because let's say you are a smaller brand versus, let's say, a mass brand like some of the big pharma companies, right? Today you
Correct.
can do that. Particularly for the Indian audience, what I notice is that we have consumed products like Horlicks, Chavanprash growing up because they were all marketed as a health product and had a health connotation to it.
Correct.
But even today, when you offer people a scoop of protein powder or a probiotic in the form of a pill, they are hesitant. You know, they think that it's chemicals, it won't harm, it'll harm you in the long run.
Fully.
So how do you change that perception, right? How do you actually inform the Indian consumer that this is good for you?
So that's actually been our biggest battle, even up to date. So the one of the toughest decisions that I had to make at Truly was the form factor. Like I mentioned, the capsule is very important for it to reach your colon alive. Now, a lot of people, when you show them a capsule, they directly equate it to medicine. They're like, no, we do not want
Yeah.
to consume medicine. We will consume chas, we will consume yogurt, we will consume any food item. We can consume powders and liquids also, but we will not consume capsules. So that has been a stigma that we've been trying to solve since our inception. But that's a battle we willingly chose to take, because I cannot sell a product which is not efficient just because it's more easily acceptable. So we knew that this is something that we would have to deal with. So again, this is an answer to this is something that I will be, like, I'm continuously trying to find every day, so I will keep you updated. But a few things that has helped is definitely more information on the website, and even social media, like the information that we put on social media, and the community that we're trying to build is very important. In a space like this, it's, I mean, although there are so many brands doing gut health, it just becomes more important. It's not as competitive as it is collaborative. So the more brands coming in right now is actually a good thing, because people now know that, okay, supplements, and the more people talk about probiotic supplements, the more open they will get to the concept. And everything needs to be solved with education at this point. Something like protein powder, for example, there is so much traditional information that is not that's not backed by science. Dal, for example, whenever you tell a vegetarian about protein, they'll say dal at least 50 times in their sentence. They do not realize that they're not getting as much protein from dal. Dal is not a wonderful source of protein just by itself, and you're not consuming enough. So when you actually tell them these, when you actually start challenging traditional norms, is when you actually start questioning. So all of this will only take place with more conversations, maybe podcasts such as yours, reaching a lot of people. Because apart from it, has to be marketed. Or if I did have a lot more funds, I would probably just ask Shah Rukh Khan to make a video where he says, guys, protein and dal is not enough. Please take protein supplements from good quality brands. Only
Yeah.
when important people start challenging traditional beliefs will there be a change. And sometimes the battle is lost. Like if I try to explain it to my grandmother who's been making dal and who's been preparing this for generations on end, that is a battle that will take way more time as compared to, you and I, who are way more susceptible to new information, to making changes for the body, for our own good. And we're very result oriented. We're eating dal, we're not
Yeah.
seeing the same muscle recovery. We're having a clean protein powder, and we do see a gain in muscle mass or efficient muscle recovery, and we do have parameters to measure it. So a very evidence based, scientifically accurate conversation, and even results that we see is going to help, turn the needle to the better side.
Amazing. Again, such good insights. And again, a couple of things that I have taken away from this, right? So, the number one takeaway that you mentioned, right, when I asked you about that kind of balance, how do you take this to the masses? That's you mentioned that that's a battle you're trying to fight right now. But importantly, you said you won't compromise on your key value proposition,
Yeah,
which comes from a science backed approach, just because you want to grow fast. So, if others are doing powders, if others are kind of selling like a one size fits all solution, let them do it.
yeah,
Your core value proposition is something that you will stick to, even if that means you don't reach the masses as fast. You have a small but loyal community of people that you're actually
exactly,
helping. And I
exactly.
think that's such an important learning for new age consumer founders, because we see a lot of people who are building brands in skincare, building brands in apparel, building brands in health nutritional supplements. And at some point you'll be like, let's compromise on our value proposition. We want to grow fast, we want to show the numbers, right? But you not doing that, I think, is a very strong message for those entrepreneurs. You mentioned something very interesting, which is that new people coming into this space, whether it's new brands that are selling probiotics or protein, is not competition, it's actually collaboration,
Yeah,
right? So does that mean that the overall pie is increasing, which is why it's not a zero sum game right now?
it is.
And
It is. It
how
is.
do you wish to how do you wish to become like a leader in this space then?
Okay. So the pie is increasing, and the reason it's collaboration is because we definitely, like, in the space of nutrition, at least in the nutraceutical industry, we do, like, there's such dearth of information. We do need more people talking about it. We do need the perspective to change from supplements being something that is chemical and is not important for the body, to chemicals might to supplements that might help you, fulfill the deficiency or the nutrition gap that your diet cannot. The only thing that I think is the differentiator is the product in itself. So, like you mentioned, a lot of different people who are doing powders to show the numbers, you can only scale a mediocre product to a certain extent, maybe a few crores, all right? If your retention rate is not good, which it won't be if your product genuinely sucks. So if it's not good, there is no way you can sustain those numbers. You can't sustain the growth. So while we don't feel good when we don't reach a certain expected numbers or the expected financial forecast, but when we go back and when we see our customer retention rate, when we see the number of customers coming back to us, it really deepens our faith in the concept, and motivates us to keep doing what we do, because we know that the product is actually working for more than half of the customers to actually be coming back to us for their second, third, fourth, fifth bottles. So I do think that the real differentiator is definitely the product. Even with protein, for example, there are so many protein brands, and a lot of them are clean as well. Like, I have nothing against them, but I have tried over 11 plant proteins, and each of them tastes like a shoebox. It tastes garbage. Like, at least plant protein, I've been wanting to shift from whey to plant for a very long time. It makes my acne terrible. It inflames my body. So I did want to move to a plant protein as compared to whey. But plant proteins are just so disgusting to taste that you just can't have them every day. You don't look forward to having
Yeah.
them every day. So that is a problem that we try to solve for as well. There are so many clean plant protein brands as well. But in the end, if the protein doesn't taste good, it's not like good in texture, the person would not want to repeat it. They would not stay loyal to your brand. If there's another brand who's doing well, who's ticking all the boxes of clean protein, good tasting protein, no aftertaste, people will shift. So for you to capture the largest part of the market, you have to have a very laser focus on your product and what your customers actually want. So while you're also creating the best product, you need to ensure that you're very in touch with what your customer thinks about the product, because you're always going to be biased. Your product is your baby, and you can't say anything wrong about your baby, but your customer will show you the mirror. And if it's saying, oh, this is too sweet, or this is still too chalky for me, or I'm not getting the results, then you will have to be agile enough to improvise. Because if you don't do that, some other company will come and do that, and they'll just like leave you behind. So agility and the focus on product is supremely important for you to keep retaining the biggest piece of the pie.
I see. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Brands that have a smaller audience but can retain that audience and that customer base are so much more valuable in the long run
Yeah.
than brands that have a very high trial rate, but then you see that sharp dip because people just don't like the product and then they don't come back, right? And from what you're saying, right, it seems like you are big into community, which is that you keep in touch with your consumer. They show you the mirror, as you said, right, and you keep iterating based on their feedback. So my question here now is, today if I'm building a consumer brand, right, whether that's in health or any other subsegment of consumer products, how can I do community building right? What are the channels through which I can reach my audience fast, get feedback fast, and what are some of the channels you use?
Right. So, what we definitely do is we send surveys to our customers depending on what pack they've bought. So, if someone's bought a 3-month pack, at the end of 3 months, we'll have a checkpoint. Or usually within like first 2 months of a 3-month pack, we'll have a checkpoint to see how they're doing, to just sort of be in touch. So, a lot of people, if it doesn't work, then we don't stop at just the product. What we're trying to evolve as a one-stop solution as well. So we do, if they have any deficiencies or any requirements in terms of their diets, we do try to help them, because honestly, like I said, it has to be a food-first approach. Supplements can only supplement a good, healthy life. If you're eating pizzas every day and if you're still consuming my product, I will not lie to you and tell you it will work. It just does not work like that. It's not a silver
Yeah.
bullet. So the idea is for us to be in touch with what they're doing. So in this survey, we will basically check everything, like check what kind of lifestyle, what activity, hours of sleep, amount of water, what their stress levels have been like, and then we'll check them on a month-on-month basis. And even them, they will know that okay, someone actually cares. So for them to share feedback and for them to stay loyal to your brand, because they care, because they're heard. That's the first thing that a customer wants. If you're suffering from an issue, rather than providing a solution, first make them feel seen, that okay, I understand what your problem is. I am here to help with that specific issue that you brought up. So to be able to do that, we do have WhatsApp conversations going on with a lot of our customers. We're hoping to consolidate that in a more like structured way, where we build like cohorts and we have the required professionals to provide a one-on-one service. So this is something that's still in the making. But apart from that, we do have, I think Instagram in general right now is really coming up. Being able to give them the right kind of information through content, and not just any content. I do have a very good focus on getting the industry experts to talk about this as well, because I just have a community of say 2500 followers on Instagram right now. But so me saying anything might not have the same gravitas as compared to
Yeah.
someone like a Dr. Pal, or someone who's
Yeah.
already in this industry who a lot of people look up to. So being able to collaborate with those folks and having industry leaders talk about it will definitely give more gravity to your brand, will definitely attract a lot more people. And once you've built that following, I think it's easier for you to keep a constant connection, like keep a constant connection with your community as well. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
two form. It's one, tapping into customers who are already a customers, and tapping into people who
Yeah.
could be potential customers. So being sure that you cater to both halves is very important. So emails, WhatsApp, Instagram are basically the three channels that we've used up until now.
Awesome. So my learning from this is basically keep in touch, use as many channels as you can, as you mentioned. So you use existing channels like email, WhatsApp, Instagram. But if you want to take it a level further, you can do personalized cohorts, you can bring in
Yeah,
key opinion leaders,
yeah,
and you can productize this, right? So as you mentioned, an app which tracks what you're eating, because your product wouldn't be successful if your consumer is just eating whatever they
exactly,
want, right?
exactly.
So that reduces the efficacy. So then they really feel like, oh, I'm part of a community where I have to log in something, and then they'll see actual results. So I think that's genius, right? If any consumer brand for that matter, not even in health, if they can kind of eventually strive to become a lifestyle business
Yeah.
where it's a community driven business, then I think that can be great for long term customer retention.
Definitely. That
So
that
amazing
basically
insights.
sparks
Yeah.
the loyalty as well. Like they'll stick
Yeah.
around for longer because now they have a sense of accountability, especially in health.
Yeah.
If you're not consistent with any journey, be it like working out, losing weight, getting over a specific disease, or like recovering from a disease, if you're not consistent with the way you've like with the specific route that you've chosen, you will not see results. So building that consistency on grounds of accountability is something that we think will help in the longer run, which is great for the brand and for the customer. So a win-win.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And you mentioned something, another thing which is very interesting, right? Which is like at some point, you kind of have to get the big people involved. And by big people, I mean influencers in that space or experts in that space, right? And that goes for both things. So if you want to take this idea to the masses, right? As you mentioned, like you want to get a Shah Rukh Khan to endorse your product so that it reaches people who are not as in part of your addressable market right now. And the second thing is to deepen the relationship with your core customers. Also at some point you will need like key opinion leaders, right? So my question here is, we see a lot of influencers, content creators, actors who are actively investing in consumer companies, right? So whether that's protein water brands, that is snack bars, etc., etc. Is that something that you think today's consumer brands should do, where they should, instead of going to like a VC fund, they go to these influencers and pitch their brand so that they get their expertise and their network where they can market this?
It's not about what I think they should do. What it is it's working. If tomorrow, so Shilpa Shetty, for example, is has invested in a lot of healthy brands, right? And that's kind of her MO as well. She's been into yoga, she's been into healthy eating a lot. So a lot of people who follow her do know that already, and she's fit as hell. So if she's behind a brand, that immediately puts the credibility stamp. For a nutrition brand, for example, it's very important more so to be credible because it's something that you're putting inside your body. So unless and until it's coming from a verified source, people are not going to take it seriously. So to answer your question, I do think it's working out for a lot of brands rather than the
Mhm.
VCs. It's a different plus point in both scenarios. With VCs, you might get expertise. For example, if you want to enter into retail, maybe someone on the VC board is good enough to do that, and maybe you can grow like that. But with an influencer, you already have the face, you already have the credibility, you already have the reach. So the brownie points in both these situations are different, but both of them can be good. Depending on what you want to achieve with your brand, I think you need to stop and you need to evaluate what your options are. Even when it's a VC fund, it shouldn't just be any VC fund. There has to be some sort of synergy for you to be able to rely on those people to help your brand grow. It's not just about the funds coming in, because anyone will give you funds if your idea is good and if the product
Yeah.
is great enough.
Yeah.
But you really need to have synergy with the people. And I think both situations, you can get like you can grow in different avenues that you deem for yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like both have their own brownie points, as you mentioned, right? And maybe we see a lot of this influencer-led investing
Yeah,
into consumer brands, and seems to be successful from the success story we do here. But as you mentioned, right, there are some things when it comes to actually running the business on the ground that a seasoned investor might know better. So it's
100%.
like, how do you get into different distribution channels?
Exactly.
How do you manage your P&L? That is something that an influencer might not know. So
Definitely.
learning here for founders is ideally have a good mix of both,
That would be ideal.
and know what you want from that fundraise before going to this.
Exactly. Very well put.
Yeah. Okay. With that, I want to move into more of your business side of things. So I have now understood the problem that you're trying to solve, your credibility in this space, and the way you're trying to communicate this to your consumers, right? When you started off this particular idea, did you raise funds externally for this, or is this something you bootstrapped?
This is completely bootstrapped. Even up until now, we've never had to raise funding. This industry, not this industry, actually, my brand has been moving quite slow in terms of the number of SKUs we've launched. So until last week, when we launched our vegan plant protein, until right before that, we just had 3 SKUs. The entirety of first year, we were just selling one. Then we launched another, and the third probiotic supplement for women was launched in December of last year. So it's not been a very long time. The research is very stringent. So we did not launch with 10 SKUs like a lot of brands have done. Because it's been bootstrapped, we do not have we working capital has always sort of been an issue, and it's yeah, we've not raised up until now. But I do believe that for you to be able to grow, like, marketing is the bread and butter. So to be able
Yeah,
to put in more funds, maybe I mean, right now I'm sure that funds are required. The source of it is yet I'm not sure about. Maybe I want to raise a friends and family round first to see how well those funds do. If I'm allocating them into marketing, if it's actually giving me the right return that I deserve, that I'm expecting, not deserve. And of course, with VC, if we do find people who are very streamlined into the capabilities that we want to grow in, then that is definitely that we're looking into. We were waiting to be able to launch this new line of products to have a certain number of SKUs and a certain revenue under our belt. So I've never like actively thought of raising funds. But yeah, we've been talking to a lot of different VCs, angel investors, family funds to see where this is headed.
I see. So if I was to put your company status in one word, it's more on the seed pre-seed side, where
Yeah,
right now you have a small customer base but a loyal customer base,
yeah,
where you're actually testing out your value proposition and seeing the traction, and then you will kind of take this to the money markets to see, where you want to raise funds
yeah.
from. Okay, so when you started with this idea, right, in a bootstrap manner, I just want to understand, like, your manufacturing, your inventory management a bit. Did you take the whole outsourced model where you were getting someone else to manufacture this, or is your manufacturing in house, and how much capital investment was made?
Yes. So we started. So the manufacturing up until today is outsourced completely. We did want to move fast once we did have the idea. So the formulation is fully in house. I am the chief formulator in the company as well, and we do have different laboratories with which we do partner. So we have the formulation that's made completely in house, and the manufacturing happens on a contract basis with a third party manufacturer. We initially started with just about an investment of just 5 to 7 lakhs, which wasn't a lot, and we did start when we were just 22 years old. So for us to be able to, like, pool our savings together, by our I mean I started this with a co-founder.
Okay.
So for us to be able to do that, yeah, we did not want to invest a very heavy sum. We did want proof of concept and product market fit. And this was more than comfortable to get us going because we started with a smaller inventory. Well, not small for us. There are MOQs that usually kick you in the ass all the time.
Yeah.
So as small as we could go to,
Yeah.
and yeah, with a decent website, with a decent ad budget and inventory, we were able to launch. But yeah, like, we
I
did
see.
not compromise on quality because we did not want a lot of people are of the opinion that you should just start, even if the
Yeah.
website is terrible, just start so that you can understand if you're getting traction.
Yeah.
I have some reservations regarding that. I think if your website is terrible and is not optimized for conversion, even if your product is really good, maybe you won't get the purchase because your website's not high converting. So even if your product is good, maybe this metric in itself will get skewed because the website is not good. Your customer journey is not good. So even if you're selling a t-shirt and you don't have your size chart in place, you don't have your return policy mentioned, if your just website is just absolute shit, then even if the t-shirt's good and legitimate, people might think it's a scam website and they will not purchase it. So I would say
Yeah.
that do not, of course, spend exorbitantly on it, but have a basic, decent website that checks your list as a consumer and invest a little in that for you to get a good idea of your product market fit. So that is something that we've focused on as well.
Understand, and thanks so much for sharing that. And personally, I also share the same opinion, where it's like people say when you're starting out, don't focus too much on quality, just push a product, whether that's a media business, whether that's a product business, right? But I also disagree with that. I feel like your early traction depends a lot on first impressions, and as they say, right, first impressions matter a lot. You should, obviously, you don't need to have the best website or the best
Yeah,
product in the
yeah, you
world,
don't.
but it should be good enough. It should deliver value,
Yeah,
and it should be functional. So as you said, right, the
functional.
website should be functional.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
100%.
when a person comes, he or she immediately knows, okay, what are they selling. He
Yeah,
or she is very close to checkout, and there's no friction in between,
yeah,
right? So I
very
think that's
important.
very important. Yeah, very important, especially in a consumer brand, because in B2B you can at least get inside some rooms, demonstrate, do demos, but in B2C, like, the consumer will be purchase based on what they see and what they experience first. So
Definitely.
thank you so much for
Definitely.
sharing
The
that.
interface matters a lot in terms of converting your customers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And when I look at your website, I think it's a super clean website, because I can see your SKU kind of menu very easily. There's an about page which is also very well done. So personally, when I visited your website, it shows that you have that focus on quality, you have that focus on having a functional operation setup.
Thank you. That this
Uh,
website also has been made this way after a lot of different iterations, and a
hmm,
lot of the times it's about experimentation. So what we think
yeah,
that works might not usually work. There are a lot
yeah,
of websites that are based out of the US and UK and even Singapore and Dubai that I think, oh, this is so beautiful. It's so wonderfully made. The design is amazing, but they just weren't giving conversions in India. The Indian market in itself, their expectations are different. They're way more result oriented. They want to see, like, they want more before after pictures to actually believe in the product. So your interface actually will come together after a lot of testing of your landing pages. So yeah, that's why the one characteristic that I think every founder should have is agility, to be able to quickly test something. If it works, put it up, see how it's going. If it doesn't work, scrap it out. Don't get so attached to one particular thing that you've done, and keep the wheel moving very often, so until you reach your winning page or winning product or whatever that is. So yeah, I think that's really helped us put together a decent website.
it's interesting to see the amount of iteration that you've done to kind of get to that stage, right? And you mentioned something very important, that visually you looked at sites which were made abroad, and you kind of tried to adapt that to the
Yeah.
Indian market, but that didn't work, and then you had to kind of test out different, did A/B testing, etc., etc., right? So in that process of testing, what do you think are the one two things you realized about the Indian consumers which is different from, let's say, a consumer sitting in Southeast Asia or Europe or US? And the reason I'm asking that is because a lot of brands today, even international brands, know how big the Indian market are. They're trying to enter the Indian market, so that's very valuable.
Yeah. So one specific thing is, earlier when we had launched, because we take our science so seriously, we assumed that everyone would be delighted to know about the science. So our page was filled with a lot of science, like just science. And
Yeah.
what I found out was that a lot of people were not that interested in science. They were like, I need results, just give me results and tell me you will give me results. If one bacteria is doing this, I couldn't care less. So that was a humbling experience as well. We did have to reduce the amount of science that we put on the website so that it's easy for a layman to understand what the product does. So to be able to simplify the description of the product and the description of every ingredient was really helpful. So that is something. So if you look at websites which are set abroad, you'll see really cool, like, uh, say, motion graphic videos, and a lot of, like, when you're scrolling the page will change automatically. There are a lot of wow elements in the US, UK, whatever, for lack of a better sentence, that in India simplicity actually wins. So if you're simple enough and you tell them, okay, this will help you go from this to this, and here are five other people who've had the exact same experience. Here is the proof, and it's a verified purchase. Here is the proof. The more social proof you add, as opposed to the more like theory. So basically, it's a distinction between theory and practice. What
Hmm.
actually has happened and what is the potential of these bacteria. So when we stressed more on the results that people saw, put a lot of pictures of our users on the website, our conversions became higher very instantly, and we were like,
Hmm.
shit, why didn't we do this earlier? I mean, it only makes sense that if you want to buy a t-shirt, for example, and you see a woman or a man wearing the t-shirt and looking like really nice and bulky and well, ripped, you would obviously want to buy it. Who cares what fabric you're using or what percentage modal or cotton it is? Like, if it's making you look like that, I want it. So that was a very like, oh, obvious fact, but we just didn't realize it because we were so like rose colored about this. Wow, we are using such wonderful science, such wonderful technology. Everyone should know about
Yeah.
it. So that was a very like humbling finding that we did
Yeah.
discover.
Yeah. So three, 4 points that you mentioned, right? One is for the Indian consumer and the Indian D2C landscape, simplicity wins.
Yeah,
Beautiful websites might build elsewhere, but for the Indian consumer, it's all about how simple it is. Social proof becomes all the more important, and there is a focus more. The third point is there's a focus more on practical than theory,
yeah,
and I truly understand that, because when I meet people from the West, let's say, when they get passionate about a particular product, they go deep into it and they start reading all the science behind it. Whereas Indian consumers, they are more practical, they are more they make decisions based on what their friends or family are saying. So
yeah.
that social proof then supersedes the theory that is
Yeah,
there. So
there
I think
are
that's
folks
great.
who dig deep as well, and you'll find a lot of them
Yeah.
on Reddit, Quora, and all of these platforms.
Yeah.
But in general, more often than not, yeah, you're gonna find people who like instantly want the validation. Ki, oh, this will happen. Let me buy it. Yeah, so that
Okay.
that really
Okay. No,
helps.
I think that's a superb learning. And for any brand that is, let's say, expanding from outside India into India, I think that's a very valuable learning, right? Because that tells them that you can't just take the same thing and apply it
Replicate.
here. Maybe yeah, you need to change your messaging a little bit to suit that audience. So thanks for that insight. You mentioned on the bootstrapping, I just want to go back a bit, right? So you mentioned on your bootstrapping that you and your co-founder just scraped together a little bit of money, which was around 7 lakh Indian rupees, right? uh, and that is the amount of money that took you to launch for Truly, right? So could you just give us a rough split of how you spent that initial 7 lakh? Like, you can give me percentages. So let's say 30% went into product development, 20% went into regulatory, uh, X% went into website development. Just a rough split,
Yeah.
because
So
I
actually,
for some
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
50% went into product development, which included the research, raw materials, processing, as well as the final packaging and everything. So everything related to product was a good 50% of it. I would say 10% was on the website and the design. So the product
Hmm.
design, the website design, landing page, and all of that. Then a good 30% went on to marketing. So having shoots done for Instagram, even shoots for the website, and being able to run Facebook ads. We started with Meta ads, of course. So to be able to run
Hmm.
those, that was a good 30%, and 10% was all like miscellaneous admin, licenses, regulatory, hiring someone to take care of the warehouse to like pack orders. That was
Hmm.
10% of it all. So that is how I would divide the entire budget.
I see. I see. So most of the money goes into the initial prototyping and product development. Rest of it goes into marketing, running paid ads.
Yes.
Understand. Okay. And from your experience, right, going from like a zero to one brand where you were just starting from scratch, you're bootstrapping, what is the sort of marketing channel that had the highest ROI for you? Was it like Facebook ads, or was it like anything else?
It was definitely Facebook. So to start with,
Hmm.
I think for any D2C brand, industry agnostic, it is, if you're a D2C brand, you need to reach out to the consumer. Meta, Google is the best platform. Amazon
Hmm.
also has worked really well for us simply because people who go on Amazon are very like determined customers. If you're going to Amazon, if you want to buy moringa, for example, you're very determined to buy moringa. So you will type moringa. You're not here to just play around. You know you want to
Yeah.
buy a moringa product. You will type moringa and you will get that. So Amazon also works really well for different industries. So Amazon worked really well for us, but our bread and butter did come from Meta, like fully ads from Meta. And yeah, that's how, if you're starting out, you do. I think everyone, no matter which industry you are from, you need to learn basic skills of running performance marketing ads, because that
Hmm.
is what is going to get you to your first lakh, to 10 to 20, to your first crore. It is a very,
Hmm.
very important skill. I'm not asking you to be great at it. Even if you're hiring an agency to do it, you need to know the basics to be able to see if what the agency is doing is well enough, or whether it's time for you to switch. So to be able to learn that is, I think, very, very crucial.
So, if I were to put it simply, focus on product. And when it comes to marketing, the highest ROI has been like Facebook Meta ads, performance marketing. And I need to learn it even if I'm outsourcing it, because I need to know if someone's like fooling me or
Yeah,
not,
no,
or if
you
someone's
shouldn't
actually
let
good
them
at.
take you for a ride, right? So
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
need, no, at least the basic understanding. You should have
Yeah.
led, like, run a couple of campaigns yourselves. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
successful. Just know what the process is. So that
Yeah.
is important.
So, so as you mentioned right now, right, like the importance of performance marketing. So, like to learn that basic that I need to learn, should I just go ahead and do it, like, kind of just read online processes and put an ad out, or is there some kind of courses I can do
There
to?
are both. There are so
Yeah.
many resources, you'll actually be surprised. Facebook
Yeah.
has their own material. You can definitely
Hmm.
start there. There are a lot of great people doing courses. There are
Hmm.
courses on YouTube, free courses on YouTube. There are courses on Udemy, Coursera, a lot of different places. So you can start wherever.
Yeah.
But the real learning will definitely be once you start and run your own campaign. So if you think
Hmm.
buying a paid course helps you systematically learn something, because definitely paid courses have a wonderful structure. They'll take you from creating your own ad account to launching your first campaign, to getting your creatives in
Yeah.
place, to launching your retargeting campaign, and like take you through all the variations that there are. That's way more structured. But if you just want to start out, you can definitely start with YouTube and Meta itself to be able to run your first campaign. But yeah, resources
Awesome.
are
Yeah.
like, there's so many of them available.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely get it. And I think a lot of early stage founders, they hear a lot of performance marketing, but maybe they don't know how much ROI they can truly get from if they do it well.
Yeah,
So putting that word out that performance marketing is front and center for your early 0 to 1 traction is
definitely.
so important. um, we're getting towards the end of our podcast here, and I just want to keep going because you have such great insights and this is such an interesting topic. But I just want to ask a question that I've been wanting to ask you, right, which is the how difficult it is to make a brand and manufacture products in the health space, because a lot of people today want to build consumer brands, right? But when you build a food brand, there's so many more regulations that come on, like which is just so much more than if you're building like a apparel brand or a footwear brand, right? But what you're doing is a level higher than that. It's pharmaceutical in a way that is making claims, right? So what are some of the difficulties you can face when trying to build a brand like yours that people should be aware of who are trying to do this?
Definitely. So, building a nutraceutical product is not difficult at all, okay? Simply because there are contract manufacturers available. Building good products and building a brand around a good product is where the difficulty comes in. Because there are so many contract manufacturers, like I mentioned, you can go to any contract manufacturer. If you want to sell vitamin supplements, for example, they will have a pre-decided ingredient list, and you can pay them the money. You don't even have to know the S of science, and they will make the product for you. Which is why you see so many brands right now getting into the health sector. Left, right, and center, there is a new ad that pops up on Instagram every single day. People are doing patches, people are doing gummies, people are doing candies, anything that you can imagine, they're doing it. So you don't
Yeah.
have to know science to start a health brand for yourself. But building a brand is quite difficult, and it's the difficulties are different from like from people to people. Okay, I might face a set of difficulties that you might not. For me, for example, like I can only tell you what my experience has been. I have only done science all my life, like I mentioned, right? So being able to do accounts, being able to manage finances has been a very big issue. So you have to be in touch with accounts on a very regular basis to understand what's coming in and what's going. You want to spend a lot of money on marketing, but if you're not getting the return, if you're not in touch with what your expenses have been, you might overshoot in a very dangerous manner. So to be able to look at your P&L sheet, to be able to look at your balance sheet, and to be able to do things within the parameters that you set for yourself is very important. To be able to file GST in time, because everything has repercussions. If you don't have something in place, it might add additional stress and burden which you do not want. Even getting your FSSAI license, getting your trademark in place, all of these seem very drudgerous, but it's very, very important for you to have these basics figured out. So because I only knew science, I've said that at least 15 times now, but to be able to learn this business side of things, which is accounting and finance, has been very important for me, and it was a challenge that I did not foresee. Another challenge that did not come very naturally to me was recording content. Man, oh man, it takes a lot to record content, and you need to be.
Tell me about it.
I have a different respect for content creators now that I have been recording content myself. And I thought of myself as a pretty confident person because I've been debating all my life. I'm like, बोलना ही तो है, क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है? It's not easy at all. From the lighting to what you're wearing to how crisp your script is to how relatable it is to editing the video, which is another dramatic scene in itself. It's so friggin' tough. So just to be able to record content, and you have to record content. There are no two ways about it. If you're the
Yes.
founder, if you think you can have a brand without your face on it, it's not a good idea. You have to learn to record content. If you're shy, get over it. If you're bad, get people to give you some really constructive, constant feedback. Improve. Like there is no two ways about it. You have to create content in this day and age. The more digital we're getting on every platform, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, content sells. So even if your
Yes.
product is wonderful, but you cannot convince your audience, you will not sell it. So creating
That is.
content was definitely something. And the third problem that I face, there are quite a few problems if you haven't figured that already.
Yeah.
The third problem for me at least was definitely vendor management. Now because we have really high quality ingredients and packaging expectations and everything, there are select vendors who fulfill the responsibilities and the standards that we set for ourselves, right? So there are times where I'm chasing the vendors and they know that they have a monopoly. So it becomes very problematic to stick to timelines. So one piece of
Hmm.
advice would be to always take a very good amount of buffer when you're setting timelines for yourselves, because it's everything is not in your control. People are going to mess things up for you, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's not always in your control, so you can't do anything about it. No matter what you do, they're not going to deliver in time. So for example, Truly Fit, which is one of our best sellers, it's a weight management product, has been sold out for the last 2 weeks, and I'm running behind vendors like I've never run in my life. And I don't know if they're getting some sort of kick out of it, but it's the delays just aren't stopping. So it's been quite stressful. So keep that buffer, and if it's not in your control, yeah, you really have to deal with things like that. You have to detach at least. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
this has been top three of a very long list that I'm not going to mention
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for kind of sharing that. And I mean, these are problems that you can't only face in the nutraceutical
correct,
business, for example. You can face this in any business, as you
one hundred
mentioned,
percent
right? But what I like is that you also gave a solution. So, for example, if I was to summarize it, manufacturing is not difficult because of how much outsourced manufacturing there is. But if you want to create a winning brand, that's where you need to really know your shit, because these manufacturers will just give you the product that everybody is taking, right? So if you want to create a winning brand, you need to have that technical expertise. So that's a very good point. The other point you mentioned on content, right? So the founders that I've been speaking to via this podcast, right, all of them have without fail mentioned the importance of content today, especially if you're building consumer brand, right? As you mentioned, content is king, so you have to keep staying in the face of your consumers, in the face of the public, to get your brand noticed. And the last thing is vendor management, so keeping that buffer, as you mentioned, right, keeping that buffer with your consumers. Like if you've committed to a launch date to your consumers, know that there might be some last minute unforeseen delays, so having that is very important. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's very valuable piece of advice for anyone who's trying to build or anyone who's working in this space. So thanks a lot.
Of course, of course. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've already shot over time because I was just having so much fun discussing all this with
Likewise.
you. But I think with that we come towards the end of our conversation. What I like to do at the end is just give the founder that interviewing a few minutes to give a call to action and talk anything that they want about their brand for our viewers, so that we are able to support you as much as we do. So if you just want to take a few minutes and give like a CTA to the audience to about your brand, that'll be great.
Definitely. So, to everyone watching, firstly, thank you for staying with us for so long. To talk more about my brand, as you would have already guessed, it's very deeply rooted in science and it is very result oriented. So, I would like for all of you to check it out, if not for buying a product, to just become a little more aware about your body, about what needs to go in, what does not, and what the importance of gut health is. The products that we have right now actually caters to everyone. We don't just sell probiotic supplements for digestive health, weight management, or women. We've also just recently launched our line of plant protein, which is extremely clean, very tasty, no aftertaste, wonderful texture. So even if you don't want to buy it, just go to the website and look at things that you should look for in a product in general, in case you want to buy it anytime in the future, not just from my brand, from any other brand. Because in the end, for you to be able to live a long life is not enough if you're not healthy. To be able to lead a healthy life, you will need to incorporate nutrition, you need to incorporate some form of movement, and you need to keep your mental health in check. So something that helps with all of that is your food. So take food very seriously. And yeah, I think read the labels, read as much of information as you can, because no one's going to care so much about your body as yourself. So you should have an education first approach to whatever you're sort of buying or whatever you're consuming. So yeah, with that, check the brand out, guys. I would love to hear from all of you in terms of feedback. We love collecting feedback. So if you think I can make the website a little better, the product packaging a little better, the taste of the products a little better, drop me a line. I'd be more than happy to hear that from you.
Thank you so much. And I for one am sold completely. Maybe because I have a little more information and we spoke
Maybe.
about this in so much detail. But now, after this conversation, I know what the importance of choosing the right probiotic is. And I'm much more aware about what goes into this whole space. So thank you so much for
Of
taking out
course,
the time
Amo. Thank you
today.
so much for having
And
me, and thank you so much for really touching on topics that not a lot of people would know, or they wouldn't even know where to start from. So, just having this information out there, I'm sure, will help at least someone in their
yeah,
journey of becoming healthier. So, love what you're doing,
I'm
and good luck with everything.